Making headlines this hour, WHO representative to the Maldives Dr. Arvind Mathur calls on Foreign Minister Dr. Muhammad Asim. Environment Ministry signs contracts for the provision of sewerage service in 5 islands in Addu Atoll. And footage uploaded online shows the Syrian city of Dera being shelled and bombed as Syrian forces attempt to drive rebels out of the city.
Good evening and welcome to Nightly News on Television Maldives with me, Fatmat Sara. And now the news in detail. WHO representative to the Maldives Dr. Arvind Mathur calls on Foreign Minister Dr. Muhammad Asim. During the meeting held yesterday at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Mathur expressed his appreciation for the continued support WHO has received from the government of Maldives and stated that Maldives is an early achiever, referring to the similarities of Maldives' health figures to that of a developed country. Minister Asim and Representative Mathur also discussed health sector priority areas of the Maldives. Foreign Minister Asim was joined at the meeting by Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Mariam Jabin. Finance Ministry says the country has seen a significant increase in foreign grants over the past 3 years. Speaking to PSM News, Finance Minister Ahmad Munawar said that the foreign grants for various projects has increased significantly since President Yamin took office 3 years ago. Noting that the Maldives is currently on the list of developing countries and the inflow of grant aid will be considerably less, the minister said despite this, President Yamin has acquired more than 2.1 billion rupiah in grant aid for various development projects around the country. Environment Ministry has signed contracts for the provision of sewage services in 5 islands in Addu Atoll. The 113.9 million rupiah project to build sewage networks in Huludu and Midu is contracted to Sierra Construction Private Limited and is expected to be completed within 12 months. Meanwhile, the ministry also signed Maldives Transport and Contracting Company MTCC to establish sewage systems in Maradu, Fedu and Fedu. Under the agreement, MTCC has to complete the 130.65 million rupiah project within 15 months. The agreement for the projects was signed by Environment Minister Tariq Ibrahim, CEO of MTCC Ibrahim Siath and Projects Director of Sierra Construction W. Tilakaratne. The projects are funded through a loan from the OPEC Fund for International Development of FID and the government budget. Ministry of Gender and Family concludes Ramvela campaign in all 13 islands of Ba Atoll. According to the ministry, the awareness sessions held in each island focused on increasing participation of senior citizens within the family and community, enhancing care and assistance, and improving their health and well-being. In addition to participation of over 180 citizens, separate sessions were held for more than 100 youths in the island to facilitate greater interaction between youth and senior citizens and identified ways to address the intergeneration gap. As part of Ramvela campaign, the ministry, in partnership with respective hospitals and health centers, also conducted health screenings and home visits for senior citizens and bedridden patients in all islands of Ba Atoll. A training program was also carried out for all social workers and health officers of Ba Atoll with the aim of improving the quality of services and support provided for senior citizens. Ramvela campaign was initiated by the Ministry of Gender and Family in August 2016 and the ministry hopes to carry out the activities of the campaign throughout the Maldives. Maldives Industrial Fisheries Company MIFCO says 2 of the 7 ice plants being developed across the country have now been completed and the remaining 5 ice plants will be completed by July this year. The government is spending a total of 15 million rupiah on the project to build 7 ice plants in 3 areas of the country. The project was contracted to MIFCO in early 2016. According to MIFCO, the plants in Kolamafushi Island and Devadu Island of Gulf Alif Atoll are now in operations. Speaking to PSM News, a business development manager of MIFCO, Mohammad Shamim, said the projects are progressing at a fast pace and the construction of the buildings in Alifish Island of Ra Atoll and Lohi Island of Noon Atoll have already been completed. Shahim said a contractor has now been assigned to the ice plant project in Tuladu Island of Ba Atoll, while ongoing projects in Hirilandu Island of Tha Atoll will be completed next month.
Ice plant install kurmuge.
Looking at business news, Maldives Association of Travel Agents and Tour Operators Matato and more than 15 companies from the Maldives tourism sector are participating in the South Asia Travel and Trade Exhibition Satte that began in Indian capital New Delhi on Wednesday. Satte Fair is being held in Pragbati Maidan, Delhi, India from 15th till 17th of this month. Matato says the Maldives is represented at the three-day exhibition by a delegation of 20 representatives. According to the organizer, Satte, South Asia's leading B2B travel and tourism trade exhibition, has worked its way to become a catalyst for the Indian travel and tourism sector and has been seeing an overwhelming response from Indian and global players, each visiting the event with high expectancy from the event and its offerings. Several tourism boards from around the world displayed their composite tourism profile at Satte 2016. This is the second international travel exhibition in 2017 that Matato is leading the effort to promote the Maldives as a tourist destination. Matato is also planning to participate in two more exhibitions, Riyadh Travel Fair and WTM Connect, scheduled to be held in April and May respectively. In a move that could shake up the global auto industry, General Motors Co. and French automaker PSA Group say they are in talks that could result in PSA buying GM's European auto operations.
For PSA, owner of the Peugeot, Citroën and DS brands acquiring GM's Opel and Volkswagen brands would give it a 16.3% share of the European passenger car market, vaulting it into second place in the region, ahead of French rival Renault SA and behind Germany's Volkswagen AG. Any deal would have to overcome financial, industrial and political obstacles. Germany's industrial union IG Metall on Tuesday fired a warning shot, saying that if the companies were discussing the sale of Opel without the union's involvement, that would be an unprecedented breach of all German and European co-determination rights. German Economy Minister Brigitte Zypries said it was totally unacceptable that talks took place on French carmaker PSA Group buying GM's European Opel unit without consulting German Works Council or local government. Workers at the German Opel manufacturing headquarters were in two minds about the news. It was not clear what price GM might want for the loss-making European business or what structure a deal could take. Both companies cautioned in statements that no deal is certain, but investors cheered the disclosure, sending shares in PSA owner of the Peugeot and Citroën brands up 3.7% and boosting GM shares by 3.5% in early New York trading. For GM, selling Opel would be the most dramatic demonstration yet of Chief Executive Mary Barra's strategy of putting profitability and returns on invested capital ahead of market share.
Looking at news from international arena, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says that regional Samajwadi Socialist Party and opposition Congress Party have formed an alliance in northern Uttar Pradesh only to grab power. Modi made the remarks while addressing a public rally in Kannauj city, Uttar Pradesh, which is undergoing multi-phase polls to elect a new assembly. Kannauj, home turf of Dimple Yadav, the wife of Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav, goes to polls in the third phase of election scheduled to be held on February 19th. Addressing a ground packed with supporters, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said Yadav and Gandhi families of regional Samajwadi and opposition Congress parties respectively have come together this time to crush your dreams and grab power.
Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party BJP has been out of power in the state for nearly 15 years. Congress, run by the Nehru-Gandhi dynasty that has ruled India for most of its existence, has watched its voters base shrink in recent years. The alliance offers it a chance for a limited comeback. 43-year-old Akhilesh Yadav is a relatively popular leader and regarded as the modern face of his party after his attempt in the bruising battle with his father for control of their party. Modi also slammed the opposition parties for criticizing the government's move to abolish high-value notes in a bid to purge black money from the economy. Modi scrapped 500,000 rupee notes in November, billing it as an attempt to root out corruption and terror financing and move the country into the age of digital payments. Uttar Pradesh elections will deliver a mid-term verdict on Modi and his Bharatiya Janata Party BJP, which polled 42% of the vote in the state in 2014, sweeping 71 out of 80 seats. A strong showing at the polls would strengthen his chances of a second term in 2019. Another important player in the contest is a low-caste Dalit leader Mayawati-led Bahujan Samaj Party (BSP), which ruled the state from 2007 to 2012. Any party polling significantly over 30% of the vote can win by a landslide. However, pollsters say it will be tough for the BJP to repeat its general election performance. Results for Uttar Pradesh elections, along with those in northern Uttarakhand and Punjab, western Goa and northeastern Manipur states will come out on March 11th.
The head of India's Defence Research Agency says India is in talks to sell short-range surface-to-air missiles to Vietnam in what would be its first transfer subshipments to Southeast Asian countries.
India has been helping the Vietnamese military with training and patrol vessels, but a further deepening of ties with missile sales could draw criticism from China that has been locked in a territorial dispute with Hanoi in the South China Sea. Chairman of State-run Defence Research and Development Organization (DRDO), S. Christopher, said New Delhi is currently talking to a number of countries for sales of its surface-to-air Akash missiles. He revealed it at a news conference on the sidelines of an air show where the DRDO is showcasing its missile programs and other key projects, including a homegrown light compact fighter. The move is in line with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's push to establish India as an arms exporter. Christopher did not provide any details of how many Akash missiles batteries the government planned to supply Vietnam. Vietnam is in midst of a quiet military build-up that analysts say is designed as a deterrent to secure its 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone as China grows more assertive in staking its claims in the South China Sea. Experts say Vietnam is in the market for fighter jets and more advanced missile systems in addition to the kilo-class submarines it has bought from Russia. India, which is also sparring with China over a border dispute, has in the past considered the sale of its BrahMos supersonic missile with a range of 290 kilometers to Vietnam and has been steadily helping Hanoi beef up its defenses. Last year, Modi announced a $500 million credit line to Vietnam to buy defense equipment on top of $100 million given previously to help it buy patrol boats. The two sides have also agreed for training of Vietnamese Air Force pilots to operate Su-30 Russian fighter planes.
4 Indian soldiers and 4 militants have been killed in gun battles in Kashmir in the second outbreak of violence between security forces and separatists in 3 days. A defense spokesman said 3 soldiers and a militant died in a shootout in North Kashmir's Bandipora district as a joint army and police team mounted a search following a tip-off that gunmen were in the area. 5 soldiers were also wounded. Separately, security forces shot at 3 militants in Handwara district, a senior police official told Reuters. An Indian army officer was also killed in the gun battle. India is trying to contain an insurgency in its northernmost region that is more than a quarter century old. Protests flared last year after security forces killed a popular underground separatist leader called Burhan Wadi. India accuses Pakistan of smuggling in men, equipment and counterfeit cash to back separatist fighters, a charge Islamabad denies. The nuclear-armed neighbours have fought 2 of their 3 wars since independence over Kashmir, with each claiming in full but rules only in part. Footage uploaded online shows the Syrian city of Daraa being shelled and bombed as Syrian forces attempt to drive rebels out of the city. The clips uploaded on Wednesday and Tuesday shows the aftermath of strikes on Daraa neighborhoods, including the Daraa al-Balad area. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitor reported fierce clashes between the Syrian regime and rebels, including factions of the former Nusra Front, which now calls itself Jabhat Fatah al-Sham. There were no immediate reports of deaths. Rebel groups on Sunday stormed the heavily garrisoned Manshia district, saying they were seeking to obstruct any army attempts to capture a strategic border crossing with Jordan. The army's control of the rebel-held crossing and swaths of territory in the southern strip of the city would sever the rebel link between the eastern and west parts of the city. The head of the EU's border agency says the bloc should expect same number of migrants from Libya this year as in 2016.
Head of the EU sport agency Frontex Fabrice Leggeri says the European Union should expect as many migrants crossing from Libya this year as last, when a record number disembarked in Italy. Some 1.6 million refugees and migrants reached the bloc by crossing the Mediterranean in 2014 to 2016, and the main route now leads from the shores of the lawless Libya to Italy.
At this point, unfortunately, I have to say that it is probably realistic to... We have to be ready to face the same number. So there was an increase by 17% last year. So we had approximately 180,000 irregular border crossings coming from Libya, or from the central Mediterranean route, let's say. So we have to be ready to face the same number.
The bloc, overwhelmed by the rivals and waging bitter internal battles on how to share the burden, has increased its efforts to cut the number of people who use smugglers' boats to make the voyage. This includes support for the UN-backed Libyan government in Tripoli, efforts to boost deportations of people with no case for asylum, and working with African states along the migration trails to ensure they let fewer people pass. But these would only bear fruit in the medium to long term, Leggeri said, adding that for now the EU had to ensure Italy has enough support and capacity to handle high arrivals.
I hope that that 2017 will be, or will see the start of a shift or a positive impact on alternative measures, cooperation with countries of transit, countries of origin, some campaign in order to make migrants aware of the risk and so on. But these are measures that need time.
The EU says some 70% of people coming via Libya from the impoverished Africa are not fleeing violent conflicts or oppressive regimes, and hence are unlikely to win asylum. They are qualified as economic migrants, and the EU wants to deport them. Frontex said the whole bloc reported some 176,000 people last year, roughly in line with 2015. But a majority of these returns are actually of nationals from the non-EU states in the Western Balkans. The more complicated deportations to the Middle East are often held up by asylum procedures, which must ensure the right to appeal.
Residents of Sadr city inspect the damage of a suicide truck bomb the previous day that claimed the lives of 15 people. The suicide bomber detonated a pickup truck on Wednesday in the heavily populated poor Shia suburb of Baghdad. Security sources said the bomb killed at least 15 and wounded another 50. The explosions, the deadliest in Baghdad so far this year, targeted a crowded street full of garages and used car dealers. Militants have stepped up bombings in Iraq last year in retaliation to a US-backed campaign that dislodged the hardline Sunni group from most Iraqi cities it took over in 2014. The militants also control parts of neighboring Syria. Palestinians warn against abandoning the two-state solution, an international goal expected on the agenda of Trump and Netanyahu talks.
Palestinians warned the United States on Wednesday against abandoning a two-state solution to the conflict with Israel after a White House official said peace did not necessarily have to entail Palestinian statehood. U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meet later in the day for the first time since the U.S. election in November that brought the Republican to office. On the eve of the meeting, a senior White House official said it was up to the Israelis and Palestinians themselves to decide on the shape of any future peace and that Trump would not try to dictate a solution. For decades, the idea of creating a Palestinian living peacefully alongside Israel has been a bedrock U.S. position, though the last negotiations broke down in 2014. Netanyahu committed with conditions to the two-state goal in a speech in 2009 and has broadly reiterated the aim since. But he has also spoken of a state-minus option, suggesting he could offer the Palestinians deep-seated autonomy and the trappings of statehood without full sovereignty. Palestinians reacted with alarm to the possibility that Washington might ditch its support for an independent Palestinian nation. Hussam Zumlat, strategic advisor to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, said the Palestinians had not received any official indication of a change in the U.S. stance.
Those who believe that they can undermine the two-state solution and replace it with what I call one state, two systems, maintaining the status quo now, apartheid, I don't think in the 21st century they will get away with it.
Political scientist Dr. Jonathan Reynolds from Bar-Ilan University said that the American administration may be favoring a more regional approach due to an understanding that the two solution is not reachable right now.
I think we should understand that statement about not necessarily a two-state solution as meaning that right now a two-state solution is not reachable. But I don't think we should understand it as saying that isn't the final destination. I think that the real issue that's involved in that statement is that the focus now will not be bilateral, just Israelis and Palestinians, but multilateral, a regional approach involving not only Israel and the Palestinians, but also America's Arab allies, notably Saudi Arabia and Egypt, because the belief is that by involving those powers, it makes it easier for both the Israelis and the Palestinians to make compromises and move peace forward.
For Netanyahu, the talks with Trump will be an opportunity to reset ties after a frequently combative relationship with Democratic Barack Obama. The Prime Minister, under investigation at home over allegations of abuse of office, spent much of Tuesday huddled with advisers in Washington preparing for the talks. Officials said they wanted no gaps to emerge between US and Israel thinking during the scheduled 2-hour Oval Office meeting. During last year's election campaign, Republican candidate Trump was relentlessly pro-Israel in his rhetoric, promising to move the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, backing David Friedman, an ardent supporter of Jewish settlements, as his Israeli envoy, and saying that he would not put pressure on Israel to negotiate with Palestinians. The tune, which was music to Netanyahu's ears and to the increasingly restive right wing within his coalition, has since changed, making Wednesday's talks critical for clarity. Trump appears to have put the embassy move on the back burner, at least for now, after warnings about the potential for regional unrest, including from Jordan's King Abdullah. And rather than giving Israel free rein on settlements, The White House has said building new ones or expanding existing ones beyond their current borders would not be helpful to peace.
A quick look at sports. Ahead of their last 32 tie against Saint Etienne, Manchester United manager Jose Mourinho is concerned about the pressures on his team should they continue to progress in the 4 competitions they are currently in.
As well as the Europa League and their push for the top 4 in the English Premier League, United are also in the League Cup final as well as the 5th round of the FA Cup. If Mourinho's team reach the final in both the Europa League and FA Cup, then they will still have 27 games to play before the end of the season. Despite this, the Portuguese coach is well aware that United are expected to win every match they play in.
We cannot choose competitions at Manchester United, I think. We know that our situation is really complicated. We know that the Europa League is also a competition where we play on the Thursdays, and then makes it even more difficult for us. The accumulation of FA Cup, League Cup match postpones is really hard for us, and if we progress in the competitions, we will be in trouble. In April and May we will be in trouble, but we cannot choose competitions, so we play competitions to win.
With United locked in a tight battle at the top of the Premier League to clinch a top 4 place and the Champions League qualification it comes with, Mourinho may choose to focus on winning the Europa League as another route to next year's Premier European competition. The winners of Europa League automatically qualify for next season's Champions League.
There is always a plus, which is the plus of being another opportunity to try to qualify for Champions League. We have two doors still open. One is Europa League, but we know that we are in the last 32, not even in the last 8 or 4, last 32, so long way to go. And in the Premier League, the door is also open, but we still have a long way to go.
Tonight's match against the French side will pit 2 brothers against each other, with Manchester United's Paul Pogba facing his older brother Florentine, who plays for Saint Etienne. The brothers will need to put family ties aside when they face each other for the first time as professionals. However, Mourinho joked this will not be so easy for their mother.
I think only Mom Pogba is a little bit in trouble, which is normal. You know, it's difficult for the lady to choose. It's not difficult, it's impossible for the lady to choose. I know from Paul that the mom wants a draw, but next week one son will be happy and another one will be sad. But I think only for the mom is a little bit of problem. For them, I think they will enjoy. They will enjoy to play against each other. Paul is excited, Florentine for sure the same. So I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Manchester United face Blackburn in the FA Cup on Sunday, just 3 days after hosting Saint Etienne at Old Trafford on Thursday.
Well, that's it for now. Stay tuned for more updates of recent current affairs stories here on Television Models. Thank you for joining us. I wish you a pleasant evening. Good night.